Tonight on Beast TV, we welcome Evans Bailey and Kurt Stanley. We will hear about their research tactics and the North Canadian River Project. So get you a fresh dip and buckle up. Larry Porst II. How you doing tonight, Larry?
I am tired, Mark. I've been working a lot in this heat, and I don't know. All I can say is, hey-yo.
Somebody told me that we ought to start calling you Ed McMahon.
I feel like Ed McMahon.
So,
well, maybe not as bloated. I don't know.
Well, we have tonight Evans Bailey and Kurt Stanley with us. Kurt, why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Hey, okay, I sure will. I'm Kurt Stanley. I'm right here from Central Oklahoma, and I'm a Bigfoot enthusiastic kind of guy. I've done some research, and I've spotted a few. Back in 1988, I saw my first booger, and I guess I've been hooked ever since. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. Evans, how you doing tonight? Evans is having a little bit of audio and video problems on his end, so his reception may go in and out on us. Kurt, why don't you tell us how you and Evans met?
Well,
Doing great. Hello from Oklahoma City.
Is that Evans?
That was Evans.
He's got a little bit of a delay.
Yeah.
It's like a kamikaze airplane radio. It's not as good as
come in Tokyo. Well, Kurt, tell us how you and Evans met.
Sure. Oh, I had been talking and doing some business, so to speak, as far as the hairy boys are concerned, with the Outlaws, and got to be pretty good buddies with Jim, Bear, Mr. King, and Mr. King one day wrote me or called me on the phone, I think, and said, say, you got a buddy down there in Yukon, not far from you, and he's into the same kind of research as you are, and this is what his name is. It's Evans Bailey, and he'd like to meet up with you. So I took Bear's advice and called him, and we've been partners ever since.
That's fantastic. I know me and Bear and Dan Rickey went out to New Mexico, and on our way, we stopped and met y'all guys.
Yes.
And what was your impression of meeting Bear? Was it what you thought it might be?
No, not at all. I expected to meet this 6'3" large Southern boy, and there he came up. He was a fat, scrawny guy.
Don't
And,
hold back, Kurt.
he, nah, he wasn't what I expected. No, he's Bear's Bear. There ain't no getting around that. Bear is Bear, and he was quite a wonderful person to get to meet in person because we had so much talk on the phone and emails and all that. And so when I met him, it was like the newlywed game, you
Yeah.
know, or the dating game when you come out and get to meet your date. It was like, hello, yeah. No, I love Bear. He's a great guy. Yeah,
Yeah. I love
mhm,
Bear too. I talked
yeah.
to him today and going to be hooking up with him a little later on and can't wait. Cannot wait. He is my brother.
Heck yeah.
And tell us a little bit about the North Canadian River Project that y'all started up.
Well, in 1988, I had my first sighting, and I was fishing, and a buddy of mine was casting out into the deep channel part, and I thought what I had seen was a squirrel on the side of a tree. It the more we moved around slowly, it became a kneecap, and the more I moved around, it became an elbow and a kneecap, then a face. And I guess this youngin, a male, he had a little penis, and I guess he was probably 6 foot tall or so. And once I got around where he couldn't hide behind the tree anymore, and I'm making this story very short because this lasted a long time. He couldn't run or he would have been seen.
Right.
And he couldn't hide behind the tree anymore. That cottonwood up on the bank, and I'm right there on the bank. So I nudged my buddy and I said, "Hey, we got us a fishing buddy over here." And yeah, whatever. He turned around and looked, and when he saw this thing staring at him behind the tree, he went. I can't even say it was an F word. The F bomb dropped very hard, and he yelled out, "What the F is that?" And this thing's eyes got as big as beer mugs, and it sprung straight up from that tree like it was on piston legs and took off running off to our left, which would have been towards the south. And that's Uncle John's Creek, which is another tributary to the North Canadian River, by the way. And when he hit a big old dead pile of timber, and we're both watching this, and I still think that I'm watching like Lost in Space for the first time. Will Robinson, you know, whatever. It's weird. He jumps over the dead pile of wood, and when he lands, he gets on all fours, and that's when he really starts running fast, and he's gone. And my buddy's looking at me, and he never would uh, admit it or talk about it. He passed away not long ago, and
Oh,
he never. And I tried to get him to talk about it publicly because I said, you know, we've got all this evidence now that I've been researching for 20 something years, but he never would, and he passed away. But the sad part is that is the sad part. The good part is that was my first experience, and I've been interested ever since. And then when I decided to come out of the closet, so to speak, guess who I met? Bear.
Bear.
And that's all I got to say about that.
Larry, have we got any questions on the chat? I forgot to mention that if anybody that's on the chat that wants to ask Kurt or Evans a question, just throw it in all caps, and Larry's kind of keeping an eye on it, and we'll get those questions asked. I see we got Evans back with us. Evans, are you there?
I am here finally. Sorry about the AV troubles, but I think we're good to go now.
Okay, fantastic.
That's a
Uh,
lot better.
yeah. See if you can turn your phone horizontal, and let's see if that will uh, make your video picture look better. Evans, why don't you tell us what got you interested in this crazy world of Bigfoot?
Well, I grew up in southeast Oklahoma, born and raised around the McAllister area, and had heard stories from family and friends about these things. And of course, I was becoming a teenager in the early 70s and began to hear about the Fouke Monster, Boggy Creek area, and Momo, the Missouri Monster, the Lake Eufaula Monster, those kind of things. Just fascinated by that, and would pick up those paperbacks at the school book fairs about the Bigfoot and other cryptids, and was just fascinated by it. And then go through school, grow up, get married, jobs, all that. Kind of drifted away from it for a while, but then that show Finding Bigfoot came on, and it kind of piqued my interest again. And they did the episode on Central Oklahoma here, and so I was really getting back into it. I got to actually go out and be in the audience for their town hall meeting there in Yukon, and that really got my interest peaked again to hear the local stories. And then I heard Kurt Stanley speaking on a national radio program, Bigfoot Outlaws Radio, and realized he was just over across the river in El Reno, and so I thought I got to get in touch with this guy, and that was I think in 2014 or 2015, and he was telling me about the North Canadian River Project, and so we've been Bigfooting since then, and our group has grown to about 80 members now, and we probably have a dozen to 15 that are really active out in the field with us. So we've got a great group of folks, and so I'm back in it. I went on an expedition down in the Kaimichi Mountains um, back in 2015, and was just fascinated. We had lots of activity. Actually saw one cross the trail down there in the mountains, and after that, of course, I was really hooked. And we've been really involved in the Honabi conference, and so yeah, I'm uh, getting close to retirement, but I'm full into the bigfooting now.
You know, one thing that I have noticed from looking at like the hideout forums and things like that, you are so knowledgeable when it comes to research that is going around in the country. Um, I know that you turned us on to the NAWAC with their report on Area X, and I've just really have. I don't personally. I don't spend a lot of time on the internet looking for things, and but I notice every time you post something that if you post a link to a researcher's um, video or whatever, it is well worth going and checking out.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I just try to keep up with what's going on across the spectrum of bigfooting. I'm just here to learn, learning from lots of different folks. Try to keep an open mind, and we've seen so many strange things while we're out there. We don't have these things figured out. We don't claim to be experts, but we're just trying to learn all we can about them, and try to figure out what these things are. And we've learned so much from the outlaws and being in the hideout, and then I try to just keep tabs with the rest of the Bigfoot community online, and see what the latest research is going on out there, and in particular here in the South, and um, just trying to keep up.
Evans, what went through your head whenever you saw that one cross that trail?
Well, fortunately, I was there with my brother, and it. If you talk to him and our group leader that was there, they would tell you I was pretty shook up. Um, I went down there on the expedition with the intentions of, yeah, we might hear some wood knocks, um, we might find some prints or something like that. But from the Saturday night when we set up before dark, when we got into this area on this ridge back in the Kaimachi Mountains south of Honubi, um, from the moment we got there, stuff started happening. Rocks being thrown, um, chattering, whispering. Um, you know, something was beating the heck out of a rock. There was uh, on this ridge. There was creeks down in the bottoms on either side, and on one side, something had a stick and was just beating the crap out of a rock down in that creek bottom. And then as the night went on, um, uh, just more and more activity. Hearing them walking, with parabolic mics, hearing them walk around, seeing shadows in the woods. Um, and then that one made a peekaboo with my brother and I. He peeked out, and then he crossed in just a flash, and we just looked at each other, and we were just in amazement, never expecting all that to happen. Just blew my mind, and the thing was so big, it really shook us up. It really shook me up. Um, uh, I, just didn't know what to think. It was, uh, but it bothered me. I stayed up most of the night, my brother and I talking about it, and it shook me up for days. Even when I got home, my wife could tell something had happened. And just seeing how massive the thing, how tall, when it stepped across that logging road, it seemed like it covered the entire road. Um, it was just amazing. But um, but we got pretty shook up. There was a scream. The longer we were there, the more agitated they seemed to be. There seemed to be a group, and we had separated them. One part of the group on one side of the road, uh, the others on the other side, and they seemed to be upset because we had separated them. And the rocks that were being thrown were getting larger. And finally, close to midnight, uh, something down in the bottom screamed real loud, and then we could tell that whatever it was coming up from the bottom and was headed toward us, and it screamed real loud again, even louder. And it's, like they say, you can hear it, you can feel it. And then that's when we decided maybe it was time to go. So we
Oh man,
jumped in the truck and took off.
That's the kind of night we like.
Yeah, it was my first real deal, and it really shook me up. So
I can imagine.
So I'm afraid I didn't handle it very well, but I think now looking back, we realize that if they wanted to hurt us, they could have easily. But um, hopefully next time I get that close, I'll be better prepared.
My opinion of it is you might as well ride it out, because if they want you, they're going to get you. So you might as well see what's going to happen.
Yeah. That whole ride back, we were pretty far back in there, and we were all piled in one pickup, and it was so dark. And on the way out, I just knew any second something was going to step out there and push us off that mountain. I was glad to see the highway.
I can imagine.
Kurt, let me ask you, what do you think these creatures are?
Well, that's a very good question. And not being a zoologist or a primatologist or even a doctor, unless I try to play one on TV, which I doubt if I will, I've seen them. I've seen them several times. I know they exist. That's where I stand. First off, I should say that there's not, I believe, or I think, I know they exist. I've seen them. I'm not insane. What I think they are a advanced primate of some type, possibly with some human DNA mixed in. But whatever it is, they are extremely diversified, meaning what you see at Bluff Creek won't be the same model as you see down in Texas or Alabama or Oklahoma. We've got a skinny waist variety. They get big. I saw one that was over 9 foot tall, and it looked like he was what's the word for it? Skiing, cross country skiing. His legs didn't look right, and so I almost didn't believe my own eyes.
Uh-huh.
Huge, but very skinny. Uh, I think they are a advanced primate with possible human DNA. I think that if it is government influenced, that's why the government doesn't want us to talk about it. Maybe it's an experiment. I'm not sure. But I do know for a fact, I believe that they were on this continent, Tennessee, Oklahoma, wherever you're from right now. I believe that they were here. One of the things that I talk about quite a bit during my lectures are the advance of the Vikings. Leif Erikson, for example,
Right.
when in his journals, he writes a couple of times actually about landing on the shores of this continent. These guys weren't afraid of anybody. Vikings were extremely tough, rugged individuals. They took what they wanted. They might have not been the best. What's the word? Well, their background checks probably wouldn't have been very good if they were looking for a job. They were murderers, and they stole from priests and everybody else. But their journals were very true. And the Scandinavian explanation to it, and the translation is when they landed on this continent at one point, they were attacked by giant, and I'm talking, when I say giant, I say over 8 foot tall, hairy, smelly, screaming, rock throwing creatures. And they actually ran these Vikings back to their longships, and they got the heck out of here. That's a fact. It's in Leif Erikson's journal, and that there's cave paintings and American Indian notations, history, the spoken word, way beyond that, before that and after, and all the other stories that go along with it. And as far as your first question, when you asked me about the North Canadian River Project, yeah, I started that. And I started it because I started finding, I discovered this thing. I looked right at a young one. He looked at me, and I was hooked. And then I started looking down the river systems and saw how they would travel these tributaries, like Uncle John's Creek was my first sighting in 1988. I'm hoping that you have the picture to show that I took in 2015. That's one of the latest ones, and all the tracks and all the evidence, and that we have a ton of evidence that Evans and I have uncovered and gained knowledge from and all that. But I had started this thing and did very little research, grew up with the knowledge of Chicken Man. Chicken Man. Who's Chicken Man? What's that? It's before the name Bigfoot became popular. And right outside of where I live, there was an incident where a chicken coop had been broken into, door ripped off, all the chickens killed. Police were called. I actually knew the officer. I didn't know this until later. But regardless, this door thankfully got sent over to the Oklahoma City Zoo. At the time, the zoologist was a guy named Professor Lawrence Curtis. And he checked the prints and did all the print work on it. And he said, well, it's kind of a primate, but kind of not. And the handprint's like 7 inches by some, that's a lot bigger than our handprint. And one of the thumbs is like it's been broken or crooked. Well, if you don't have a joint set at your doctor, when you're playing football or hanging
Right.
out, they will grow uh, oblonged or deformed, and that's one of the prints that they found. So subsequently, the total reaction of it was the grease of the actual palm was of a type that they didn't recognize, but they were calling it more primate at that time. So very shortly after that, they heard from a guy down the river. And this is, again, we're talking the river. And Evans and I base our whole research and our whole study on this river. We don't need to go anywhere else. There's so much to find on the river that we don't even have to go very far. We have found recent footprints that would amaze and blow your mind, among other things. But uh, just down the river at that time, during that period of time, 1970, there was an old man in Calumet, Oklahoma, which is just west of the Chicken Man incident, and he saw these things nightly. He knew that they existed. Actually, went into El Reno, the town, and was buying old fruit and trying to buy vegetables and fruit and things like that from the vendors or the grocery stores. He was going to trap one. So it's this isn't something that I'm making up. You can look it up in the Daily Oklahoman. It's all there in the archives. Go look it up for yourself. Google it. And of course, he never caught one, but he was looking at them, and they are ape-like creatures.
Right.
They like watching us, and they're pretty dang smart. I don't think they make as much noise as we have discovered in Southeast Oklahoma. Evans and I go to Southeast Oklahoma and I do definitely on a regular basis. Evans is from Southeast Oklahoma, and we've heard some incredible screams. We have recordings of them, and tree structures and all kinds of different evidence, footprints, footprints, handprints, whatever. And then we have some colleagues in Missouri that are probably going to be shedding some incredible evidence on the world soon. And I can't wait till the documentary comes out, their newest documentary. And I won't mention names right at this moment, but
it's the 500.
It's the 400.
400. My bad.
Yeah. Well, then you know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
well,
sir.
To cut this whole situation short, I decided to put this project together. Bear hooked me up with Evans, and the rest is, just what it is. We've just been looking at stuff and finding stuff, and we have no doubt that they exist. There's no doubt about that. It's just a matter of I don't even care what they are. I just know that they exist, and I don't want to see them killed. I would hate for one to get killed. I really would. But other than that, that's we base the North Canadian River Project on facts. We don't exaggerate anything. And if we have a bad night, we have a bad night. Other nights we've had good nights. I didn't even know Evans, of course, came into a little money, I guess, and contributed to the group. And the first night I used the FLIR, I didn't know what I was actually doing. And we were watching something that was swaying behind a stump, watching us for a long time that night. And somehow I got a picture of it. And later on, he found that I did. Now, of course, we know how to use FLIR and night vision now. But at the time, I had no idea what I was doing. But I guess I took a picture of it.
Evans, just so you know, we're on a shoestring budget here, and we're broke.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. The job that I'm in, once a year we get a longevity payment, and that year, I'd finished paying for 2 weddings, both my daughters. I had finished paying for their colleges, things like that, and so I got that check that year, and my wife said, "Hey, you should spend that on yourself." So I went and got a FLIR and night vision scope. But our research area is very close to the Concho Cheyenne Reservation, Cheyenne and Arapaho Reservation, north of El Reno, and there are several members of our group that are tribal members, and other tribes too. And then we're affiliated with the Native Oklahoma Bigfoot Research Organization, which is made up of tribal members from various tribes, several tribes. And each tribe has their own um, uh, story about what these creatures are and where they came from, but all of them refer to them as a people, an ancient people, the old ones, the ancient ones, the ones that came before. The Caddos are the oldest tribe in Oklahoma. They were here even before the other tribes were assigned here. Um, and the Caddos have been in the Oklahoma region about 300 to 500 years, and their stories say that the hairy man was here when they got here, when the Caddos arrived. So, but they all consider them an ancient brother, a familial tribal of people. So it's just interesting to see the range. But there's definitely something different about these creatures. Uh, there's just something unique about them, the way they can avoid us, um, that sort of thing. So that I'm kind of on the fence. I know they have some characteristics of primate, but then some of the other things that they do, and with the DNA studies that we've seen, where there is a mixture of human in there on the maternal mitochondrial side. So um, they show characteristics to me that are higher than just say a grizzly bear or something like that,
Right.
some other type of wildlife.
Let me interrupt though, Evans. Evans will have to admit that we don't use flashlights, period, and
Right.
we never ever use flashlights, and we also experimented with all kinds of different things, and finally, I got Evans. I came from a musical family, and I actually was a musician, a professional bass player for 36 years. But I had said, Evans, you want to try? He goes, you bet. So now Evans will play the flute. He'll beat a drum. He'll do anything, you know, uh, to try to gain, and that is an approach. We are not. What is the word, Evans? We're
Well, we
not.
don't we don't chase them.
No,
We go to a spot, set up, and try to attract activity by the things that we're doing. Chasing them through the woods at night. There's not that big of an expanse of woods here anyway. Just the riparian areas along the rivers where you might find some forest, but we try to set up in a
ignore them.
right and let them with their curiosity come check us out.
I know me and Eric Tipton um, talked about that and how we try to train ourselves that if something gets thrown or a noise is made that it's almost human nature to try to turn towards it. And I think
Right.
it's good if you can train yourself where you don't give any type of reaction to it. And
We just let me interrupt. Evans and I just recently had a couple. They do a podcast. They have a show out of California, and these two girls came, and they've been here a couple. This their second time, right? Yeah,
Right.
That's
and
right.
we had a something thrown. We were looking at tracks, which are incredible tracks, but then something at least minimum the size of a cinder block was thrown into the river, and it was on their recording, which is broadcasted, and they have it on YouTube and all that. And it's just another example of we didn't overreact to it. We just kept, you know, doing our thing. But here is something the size of a cinder block coming in right close to you, making this incredible splash, like a body was thrown into the water, and you just kind of, and we just went, oh, okay, you know, it's very strange, but you get used to it, this stuff, and you try to ignore it, like you guys are talking about. Just don't pay attention because rocks are hitting the side of your truck. You just kind of got to concentrate, and it's very hard. It's like
Yeah.
I can't explain it, but yeah.
Yeah.
I did watch both those videos with those girls, and the first
Oh, you did?
video, they kind of left still laughing about Bigfoot. After that second video, I don't think they left laughing.
No, no,
The
no,
second
no.
that we went to, that we took them to this year, they actually heard the howls, the wood knocks, found the prints, and then whenever that was thrown into the water beside us, that they left really shook up.
Yeah. Yeah, you could tell it was genuine. No doubt about it.
As far as a Christian, basically they stuck their finger into the nail hole. You know what I'm saying?
I
Yeah.
know what you're saying.
Yes.
Doubting Thomas.
Yes.
I just see where Cheryl asked a question, and she wants to know, do y'all carry weapons in the field?
We have a couple of times. We haven't lately. Not that I don't think we did when we took the ladies from California out. I was trying to think the last time. Have we taken anything out? Well, okay, we did go on a field investigation back in January. There was a landowner, and Kurt can fill in the details. He actually had been this person had contacted him. I was out north of El Reno, and he had been hearing screams from the back of his property at night, where there were some caves, and he didn't want to go down there and see what was causing the ruckus, and so we were able to get out there and investigate during the daytime. We did take some weapons, I think, because we had no idea what we might run into around those caves. But go ahead, Kurt.
Oh, I've got a 12 gauge assault shotgun, and if we deem that necessary, I'll bring it along. But most of the time, no, we do not. We feel that if they want to take your head off, they can do it at any time, and I don't feel that they are. Although I see today there was a question on Bigfoot Outlaws page, and it dealt with that. And I wanted to say something in there, but I was at work and I couldn't. I truly believe that they're no different than any chimp or human or a horse or anything else. You've got a group of individual personalities. You're always going to run into a bad one once in a while. It's just like when you're shopping. You want to get to that last coconut cream pie, and there's somebody that's going to want it before you get there, and they're not very nice, or a parking spot or what have you. I really think that is how we're looking at this type of thing. They're wanting to be stealth. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, they also want you to know that they have a territory that they are controlling, and it's an odd mix of, I'll stay hidden, but I'm going to throw something at you. It's very primate in that reaction, the tossing of objects and not actually trying to hurt you or what have you. On the other hand, I have no doubt that there has been and will be bad experiences with certain individuals that might not be as what's the word for it? Like the movie Young Frankenstein. What brain did you get? Abby somebody. Abby normal. Well, and that's how I feel about that. I think that there is individuals that may be violent because that's their nature, but I think for the most part they are just very stealthy. Their population is starting to grow. I do believe from the beginning that their population was wiped out by early man crossing the over into the continent during the Ice Age, and the diseases that they brought with them wiped a lot of the species out, and they're just now starting to come back into force. Places like Arkansas, southeast Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, and of course we have Washington and Oregon and the north, the northwest,
I do carry a can
Pacific area. You know,
I do carry a can of bear spray. Um, but the ones that we've observed, especially down in the bridge, the old abandoned bridge area, they seem to
yeah.
be more curious. Since we aren't carrying flashlights, I think they're trying to figure out what's different about us, why we're up there, um, and not shining lights in their face, and
Yes,
so we've watched them on FLIR and night vision approach the bridge. They just seem to be very stealthy and curious, and but they don't make any sounds. So we really haven't felt threatened or any threatening behavior.
and the only sound I heard, and Evans brought up a good point. We go into an area a lot of times in our main research area, and that's where we would probably bring you. We would end up there. That's where we would bring you and Mark, and we would set up right there on that bridge because that's what they're used to. They're used to seeing all these people come in on this bridge, and they bring their kids and they swim, they fish, whatever, and they're being observed from there. The day that I had rode out, I went out on my Harley, and actually the place that I'm sitting right now, using his internet at his place, he had said, "Well, I'm at work. Go out and take some photos of the river." We were trying to decide whether we wanted to canoe down the river at that time or not. Is there enough water? Blah, blah, blah. So I rode my Harley out there, took my digital camera, which I always take, and I was just taking some pictures of the water level that day. I wasn't trying to get any research done to speak of. And I heard a whoop and a cough behind me. And I turned around. I took several snapshots behind me on that bridge. And at first I thought, that, well, there's somebody down there fishing or what have you. And then later on, under examination, I discovered this photo. And there he is. He's hanging onto a tree. He's staring at me. His mouth's kind of open, looking at me. So, you know, I wasn't asking for the world. I wasn't asking for Bear or anybody else to condone my great discovery. So I sent it to the University of Oklahoma, to the professor over there that is the master, whatever, of the imagery and photography and all that. It's not, it's, this was what I got back. It's not a illusion, which we all hear about all the time. Oh, the human ability to see a face in a rock or a tree, and we all know that word that gets spread around, and we do see a lot of that in the leaves and stuff like that. there is something behind it, and it is a life form, and it is hanging on to that tree, and it's real. So they had enhanced a foliage photo, sent it back to me as a proof on it. Okay, but they still didn't want to deal with it. They told me that they don't get, basically, I was told that they don't get sponsorship or grants from Bigfoot. So, but thank you for sending that in. And this is what we've discovered. And that's the photo that I submitted to you that's on YouTube of a real river ape. And that's what I call them. I don't call them Bigfoot. I call them river ape. And it's the real deal. And that's about all I got to say about that.
Evans,
Yes,
What about?
go ahead, Larry.
I can't. You keep talking. I was going to ask Kurt about the juvenile that he saw because Jinky wants to know. Can you describe its head? She wants to know if you think the slope on their head comes with age or it's just natural throughout their life. So go ahead.
That's a very good question. As we turned as we got around the bend and he ran at a tree, he was knelt down on squatted, and he had been putting his hands up on the tree behind a cottonwood, which is about 4 foot off the bank, and I was about 3 foot off the bank, doing what we call in Oklahoma and Tennessee, what we call that. What do we call that, Mark?
Flipping.
Flipping. So I was flipping a jig into the brush. Anyway, then my buddy was casting out into the deep part doing crankbait. It was deeper out there, 20 something foot. And when his head came around, it was short, not long. The brow ridge was extremely prominent. There a little bit of hair around the chin. The lips were moist like a human, not like a chimp, not like an ape, more like a human. And he had his mouth open. The nose was like, I can describe it, like the end of a bear's nose. Okay, that little button, cute schnauzer, little black nose, but there's no snout. It's just that little nose. The eyes were very concentrated, very calloused. Is the only way I can put it. Like they were calloused, like they could shard themselves from brush, running through brush. They were very wrinkled and calloused looking around the eye for a young specimen like that. A little hair off of the arm from about this point. Can you see that? About from this point to this point, it was a little longer, not much, straggly, red like a squirrel. Around here, a little more over here. Then the hair was not long anywhere. The legs were extremely. I saw the bend of the what's the bottom part of your leg called, Larry?
Calf.
The calf.
Thank you. The calf had short hair on it, reddish, and a little longer off of the back of the calf. I didn't ever see the feet. I mean, they were going so fast after my friend, acknowledged this thing existed. And when he sprung up, I went back later because I've been in. It changed my world, changed my whole world. I figured him to be about 6'2" and skinny like a little girl around the waist, just skinny as heck, and just like Bruce Lee up here, and the muscle. There was no fat, just all muscle, and That is ears flattened against the head, not abnormal, not large, not chimp like either. Flattened, like a normal human ear against the head. Um, Not a lot of bang. The brow ridge was like hairless completely from here all the way back around to the side of the head, like this. Like my
Right.
gray.
Right.
Yeah, that's and um, the teeth were. I can't say that they had any canines in them because he never did show that, but he was doing a pursed wah, 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 like that at me when I'm staring at him until my friend turned around and then his eyes went real big and he didn't scream. He just ran off, hit a wood pile, jumped over the wood pile, went onto all fours, and he was like a quarter horse at the races or faster. I've never seen anything move that fast in my life. Kind of
When
like that, but off the chin. If you're wanting to know about facial, the hair off the chin was starting to grow, and it was the color of a squirrel, reddish. That's what he looked like.
when he bolted, did he
Yes,
bolt on 2 feet or did he go in 4x4 before he hit the wood pile?
he sprung up like he had two turbines going off on them legs, and I mean his eyes got that big, and he sprung up. I bet 10 foot. He looked 10 foot tall, and when it was I can remember it like it was yesterday. He sprang up with his eyes open, freaking out because my friend freaked out. Otherwise, he thought he was stealth or in good company with me. I have this thing about animals and I guess kids or whatever. I don't care for either one of them. I'm kidding, but they like me. And animals seem to come up to me all the time and all that. And this thing he wasn't. I'm not trying to say that he was communicating with me, but he was curious, and we were at ease. Nothing was. I just kept acting like I was flipping, and I was always hoping. I told Bear the first when I talked to him the first time. I said, Bear, I was always hoping, God, I hope a big bass don't hit you know, on that jig because I'm watching this. I'm not. Is this real? God, God, is this real or am I? Is this a flashback? Did I do acid and don't know about it? That was that crazy. But what happened was he sprung up like he was on two pistons. Boom, and it was off almost at the same time. He left the ground, and when he started running, it was on two legs, and he went 25 yards maybe. There's a big pile of deadwood that they had kept pulling up out of this flood reservoir, which is located on a creek that's a tributary of the North Canadian River. Again, here we go. And when he went over, he jumped over that like, you know, you and I would jump over somebody's keg of beer. And when he hit the ground, he was on all fours. And that's when he took off incredibly fast. And he was gone into the woods and wherever he went. We never, I mean,
how,
it was
how,
it was a blur after that.
how
Yeah.
far apart were y'all whenever y'all were just watching each other?
12 to 13 feet,
Wow.
me and
Wow.
him.
Do
Yep.
you think he didn't pay attention to you because I'm supposing you were wearing polarized sunglasses while you're fishing, probably, and he couldn't see your eyes, so he didn't know you'd seen him. But when your buddy turned around and said what he said, he knew he was seen.
He screamed. I never said a word. I just sat there and I thought, this is what the heck? I thought, like I said, this ain't real. I
Right.
don't believe this. I'm going crazy. I don't believe this. What the heck? All these things are going through my head. And I'm looking at this thing and he's looking at me and his mouth's kind of moving a little bit. And I'm kind of looking at him and we're easy, we're easy. I wasn't scared. I wasn't freaking out. I just went, is this a flashback of something that I ate 20 years ago? What's going
It's
on?
from your '80s
I,
punk rock gigs.
it might have been. I don't know. Evans, thanks for
We
Evan,
that
have
vote of
pictures.
con.
We have
But
pictures
anyway,
of
it
that
changed
too.
my, yeah, yeah.
Evans, why don't you tell us about who all is in the North Canadian River Project with you and Kurt?
Okay, well we've got lots of great folks. We have, of course, the majority of them are from the central Oklahoma area here. They're familiar with the area. Many folks from the El Reno, Yukon area, northwest Oklahoma City area. The folks that are familiar with that Stinchcomb Refuge, where the river comes into Lake Overholser, over on the northwest side of the city. Um, we have some tribal members from the Concho area. But we have several members that we've met at various folks that we've met at various conferences around the state, um, that live up around the Tulsa area, um, or down in the southeast part of the state, that are just interested in uh, what's going on, what we're finding here in the central part. Um, we're just trying to be trying to establish really a network of researchers around the state, and all keep in touch, and find out what's going on, what folks are finding. Just trying to keep good communication among the groups here in Oklahoma, instead of trying to and I know y'all have talked about it before too. Instead of trying to be so competitive, we're really trying to help each other out, so to
Kind of
speak.
an alliance.
Right, right. So yeah, we're one of our main focuses has been establishing contacts with all these groups, and getting to know each other, and find out what each other doing, instead of competing for spots. I think that's one thing you'll find about our group is we're pretty open, and we take our group members, and those that want to go, we take them out to the spots, and we have a good time looking around. We're not trying to hide anything. We're not trying to really be secret about what our activities are. We have group events 2, 3, 4 times a year.
We don't promise expectations
Right,
ever. You know,
right,
Well, I think that's a pretty good culture to have as far as whenever researchers come together. I think it's when you run into people that are egotistical or alpha males or things like that that think that they cannot learn from somebody else. But I
right,
think that if you're open minded and you're looking to learn and you're learning and you're looking to share, then that is a good culture to have. And I think that you will find that your evidence, you will gain learning evidence, and it will be fruitful, for the group whenever you
right,
do share with other people.
right. Yeah, and one of the things we've discovered is, like Kurt was talking about, the creatures over in the eastern part of the state, with all the different habitat over there, the hills and trees, um, you know, techniques and methods that work over there, looking around, don't necessarily work in our area. But we learn a whole lot more from each other, from these other researchers, and we enjoy going over there, and going on their outings and learning more. And then they come over and see our area, and see how things are different over to central and to the west.
Right, right. Larry, I haven't asked lately, but do we have any questions that are you there, Larry?
No, I'm not here because I muted my mic.
Oh, okay. Has anybody asked any questions, Larry?
No, but I'm going to ask a question. I've seen y'all are doing several seminars at different libraries around y'all's area. Can y'all talk
Yes, sir.
about what y'all are doing with that?
yeah, yeah. We're Evans is actually more of the initial contact for the public, and that's what he does a lot anyway in his real life. So let's let whoever's best at that do what they do, and Evans is very good at it. So they have contracted us to come in and do library lectures and these conferences, and they book uh, the get-togethers on the fact of let's discover Bigfoot, whether it's for the kids or adults or whatever, and we guide ourselves accordingly to the spectrum uh, uh, of their event. If it's for an adult, we come in with a whole different deal. I'll come in and I'll talk about the early aspects and give all these facts. I'll show photos of on a slideshow of Indian wall paintings, Leif Erikson, all these things that have been proof positive. Why would these people make up these stories, right? 200 years ago or more. Then Evans will come in and he kind of brings in the let's talk about Oklahoma. And this is where this was first heard about. And wow, uh, gosh, we didn't know that about Oklahoma, and these stories and all the things that we've heard about and found evidence wise. Um, and with the kids, we kind of come in with a different kind of frame of mind. It's more like they're coming in. Little Bigfoot, I'm not sure what they think, but by the end of it, they are actually asking more intelligent questions and more inquisitive and more interactive with Evans and I than the adults ever are at any conference or anything. They have extremely intelligent questions and they're asking things that Bigfoot researchers talk to each other about structure and why and smells and all this stuff. And these are little kids, and it's like, wow. Evans and I first kind of got into it, and we were like going, well, we got to talk to a bunch of kids. This is going to be weird, isn't it? Because we're used to talking to adults, and it surprised us big time. These kids have a lot of inquisitive things, and the things they've seen and heard are just as viable as anybody else that's having a Bigfoot experience. So, yeah,
We did.
that's what we do.
We didn't really intend to get into so much of this public outreach, but about a year ago, the librarian at the downtown Oklahoma City Library had contacted the Honaby Conference because she's interested in Bigfoot and had asked them to do a program at their paranormal festival in the fall. And since the Honaby Conference knew that Kurt and I were located in this area, they asked us if we would, provide a program to the library. And we did that. It went over great. There was great attendance. We had great feedback. And so then once we the Metro library system has 14, I think 14 libraries. Once we got into that network and all the librarians found out that, hey, there's some guys around here that'll do Bigfoot programs, then we started getting lots of emails and lining up all these library programs. So, and their summer reading program emphasis this summer was Wild About Reading from the Maurice Sendak, Where the Wild Things Are, from that book, which just was a perfect lead into the Bigfoot stuff. So yeah, we did 4 different libraries around the metro area just through the summer reading program. We had a blast, great crowds, great questions. We heard lots of great encounter stories. People couldn't wait to tell us their own stories around this area. So yeah, it's turned out great. We didn't really intend to do all this, but just kind of fell into it. But it's been a lot of fun.
Has it led to any research areas that y'all picked up because of this?
People have told us about areas. Of course, so much of Oklahoma is private land, um, and yeah, we've got a couple of resources of private areas to go look at. But we're mainly right now having to stick to the public lands.
Mark, do we have any questions?
I'm not sure, but I have a question. Uh, Tell us a little bit about what instruments y'all use to collect evidence, and do y'all catalog that evidence?
Well, we've
Yeah.
mainly been
Well, go ahead.
mainly been keeping track of it on our group page, the photos and that sort of thing. Um,
He means forensics, Evans. Like my initial use of constant latex surgical gloves and the evidence bags and those type of things. Am I wrong? Is that what you wanted to know?
Well, that, and also, do y'all set out audio recorders? Do you set out camera traps or anything like that whenever y'all go into an area to research?
Oh yeah. Go ahead, Evans.
well, we're just kind of slowly gathering equipment. Some of our members are gathering equipment. We have had planned a couple of different campouts that, because of weather and things like that, and illness, it just didn't come together. But we do have now some audio recording equipment. We have the parabolic microphone. We've got the FLIR, night vision. Some of our other members have those also. Um, but uh, yeah, we don't have a ton of equipment, but we are trying to get out there and certainly looking forward to putting the audio recorders out. Kurt has access to some private property right along the river in a different area than we've been before. So we're trying to plan out an overnight, couple of nights out there to really start setting out that kind of equipment. The audio recorders. We now have some of the newer generation stealth cameras, trail cameras. We want to try. If these creatures around here are not used to trail cameras, we're hoping maybe that might possibly get lucky with something like that.
Right.
So yeah, we're just now getting into that. We've been starting some plaster casting from finding the really good footprints that we have. So I guess we're just really beginning to start to really collect and catalog some of the things we found.
Do y'all do many overnighters in y'all's research?
No, we haven't yet. Mostly, there's been some late nights, but not overnight. Just with logistics and trying to find a place where we could actually camp. Like I said, Kurt's just recently got permission for this private property for us to camp on. The other areas, that are not, the public's not allowed to camp. So
It's extremely hard to. Let me interrupt. It's extremely hard to get permission to get on private property, and anytime you have the river, and immediately off of the river, these people own that land, and they will come down there and tell you they own the river too. And they will defend it with gunpowder, and that's pretty much what we have to deal with here. I don't know about you guys in Tennessee or what have you, but you know how it is.
Yeah.
I own the land, that I own that river. Get the heck off of here.
Right.
And but
it's about the same.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of these people. I grew up with them and all that, so we get a lot of chances to get out. And I've got some good places that we're going to do some overnighting in and all that. And it is completely wild. There's no easy way into it. It's ticks, fleas, mosquitoes, poison ivy, as thick as you can shake a stick at. But yeah, no, we stay until we can't stand it anymore, and we get what we need out of it, and then we split before the mosquitoes drink all our blood.
Now y'all said earlier that y'all play like flute music or drums.
No, I was just making that up. I lied about it.
Well, you had Jinky going because Jinky wanted to know if y'all had any activity because of it.
Nah, I think Evans blew on a flute once or something like that,
Yeah,
And
that
I
is a
probably
technique.
laughed at him so hard that he quit. I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah, that is a technique we've been wanting to try. Whenever I went on the expedition in southeast Oklahoma, the group leader was Choctaw, and he encouraged us to bring musical instruments, that sort of thing. Anything we can do, sing, recite poetry, anything that might pique their curiosity and have them coming around seeing, what you're doing. So yeah,
Right.
that's something I've been wanting to try. I've been wanting to try to talk Kurt into bringing his guitar and that sort of thing, and just see what curiosity we can attract.
I have heard that type thing works. I've heard of people reading Bible out loud and that drawn in. I've
Yeah.
heard all kinds of things. I've not tried any of these, but I have heard a bunch of people trying different things and having activity because of it.
Right.
I tell you about the craziest thing that I heard is we have a friend and his girlfriend is an amputee, and he has he wants to use the strategy of them both sitting on the tailgate of the truck, and when they feel like something might be watching them, for her to take off that leg and set it up
Oh,
on the truck and
Whoa.
see what kind of curiosity that would draw, if it
Wow.
would blow their minds.
Wow.
And I just thought, man, that is thinking outside of the box.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I got some response one time. I did a lot of research before I got hooked up with Evans, so I was out doing some stuff on my own, and I don't know why I did, but I did. I used to be a radio DJ before I got fired for cussing on air,
The
but
first Howard Stern.
well, I did. I did this AM voice one day, and it was out there. And again, it was on the river, and it was like, "Hi, it's fair to partly cloudy skies. You're on the, Big Daddy John Garland's flame fueled dragsters racing on Sunday." I don't know what I was doing. I was just getting a good echo off of the riverbank, actually, and I heard this high pitched squeal. It sounded like it was about 100 yards down that. It was like, ooh, like, shut up, shut up. And so I never did it again. But that's the fact. That's the truth.
so you guys can tell we have a good time whenever we're out.
That's what it's all about. Enjoying
No
each
doubt.
other's company, being with friends, and hopefully getting a little bit of interaction.
But mainly eating good.
Yeah, we're
Well,
going to eat, aren't we, Larry?
Yes,
and
we are.
well, and not only that, the ticks eat good too.
Yes, they do.
Which actually a lot of our field work we do in the wintertime.
Yeah.
Because we don't have to worry about ticks, snakes, poison ivy. That's right. Plus, we figure if we find some good prints in the wintertime, the likelihood of that being people out there running around barefooted. So some of the best evidence we've found has actually been in winter, and then with the leaves down along the river, it's much easier to spot activity. So, much more comfortable to be out here in the wintertime than running around, especially right now.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Did you get that YouTube portfolio that I sent to you on that photo? That's the one that I had sent to the University of Oklahoma, and I was going to describe that to you.
I don't think I did. I got some pictures from Evans, but I do not think that I got the picture that you sent.
Okay. Well, that was a extremely, as far as prominence on this river, that is an artifact of and I don't need anybody to correspond with me on it. I've got experts to tell me it's not pareidolia, it's real, and we show it at all our lectures now, and the whole crowd sees it
Do
without a problem. And so I'm not. At first, it was like somebody couldn't see it or somebody was doubting it. It's evidence. It's also been told to me that there may be a what was the word for it, Evans? Evans knows more about this stuff than I do. There is a acknowledgement that I actually have a picture of a real one. You know, there's
uh-huh.
no way it's fake, and am I suspect to government uh, whatever? I don't even want to go there with it right now, but that photo is real, and it is there's nothing fake about it, and that'll give you a good look at Oklahoma young River 8.
Where
Yep.
where could our viewers go to see that photo? Do y'all have a Facebook
You bet.
page or
Yes, you can go to YouTube, go into the search bar, type in Bigfoot photo capture Oklahoma.
okay?
Scroll down until you see my YouTube name, which is Maxa Mista, which is Cheyenne for giant monster. That's the picture. It's just a plain looking photo with a forest area behind it and a river microwave antenna that gives signals back to I guess they go over to Oklahoma City. Evans knows about it as well, but it gives records of the height and the flow of the river and all kinds of information, which we also can talk about if you want to talk about the damage that Evans and I have photographed and discovered of these things, destroying things. But anyway, right to the left of it, you'll watch this video. And again, it's YouTube, Bigfoot photo capture, Oklahoma, Maximista. Put in the full screen and let it play. I've let it build up and zoomed in, and you can see the antenna that I'm describing, the microwave antenna. It's off to the left of it. It won't be very long until you can see the shape of this thing hanging onto a tree, staring at me. He thinks he's hidden,
Right.
and he's the one who did the whoop and coughed. And I turned around and took pictures of him. I wasn't even looking that day. I was looking for my buddy, who I'm doing the broadcast from right now. My buddy's place. He had said, "Well, go out there and check out the river, see if there's enough water. We can canoe it. We've been doing it for years." And that's when I ran into that guy.
What I'll
So
get you to do for me, Kurt,
sure.
is to send me a link
Mm-hmm.
to the video that's on
All right.
YouTube, and I will pin it to the top of the comments.
Sure.
So anybody that wants to go and look at that picture, then after the show, then it'll be pinned and they can click on it and it'll take them
You
right
got
to
it.
it.
And I also sent it to you previously.
Okay.
So
All
sounds
right,
good.
guys. What are y'all trying to do with y'all's research? What's y'all's purpose? Go ahead, Evans.
That's a good question. Uh, we're not really trying to prove anything to ourselves. I guess for me, I was just really curious of how many of these creatures there might be in the central Oklahoma area. If there was really that much activity, I think that's why I first wanted to get involved with the North Canadian River Project. Um, just and I enjoy hearing the encounter stories, that sort of thing. But I guess trying to get really good, solid physical evidence is one of my goals, and to meet other researchers and learn about these things. I don't know, Kurt. I don't guess we've ever really discussed what our actual goals were for this, but just kind of
Well,
took off. It's growing, and
yeah. And Evans has an extremely his job position and his just Evans Bailey period. He questions just about everything. Why does the sun come up in the morning? No, I'm kidding, but he does. He is an intellectual, and he does question everything. Well, and so he is not a what do you call it? Oh, I can make him believe in this or that. Nope, he's not that way whatsoever. In my opinion, and I hope that his is the same, since we're partners on this deal, is we just we know what exists. We It's not belief or knowledge. It's just we know. We go down almost every other time and we find evidence. We see tracks. We see FLIR. We know that we are being watched. It's not. And then some nights we are not being watched, and we don't see FLIR, and we don't see tracks, and all that. It's just we're not trying to make anybody believe in anything. We just want that to have something that we have obtained and solidified that we can offer to others that believe that they have experienced these river apes or Bigfoot or whatever you like to call them, and that they don't think they're crazy.
Right.
And I really truly believe that. I think Evans is with me on that. We're not trying to prove anything or show the world up or come up with the corpse of one, so to speak. We're just trying to learn ourselves and then be open to those who have had experiences and are going, why did this thing rush by my car and pull my mirror off, or whatever the story is. And we have a lot of we get calls about stuff around not only here but other places in Oklahoma, and the activity is getting more frequent. And I have my theories about that, but that's how I feel. We're just trying to be open to those who need to have somebody go, I acknowledge you. I don't think that you're crazy. And I'll listen to you.
Right.
That's
I
about
think,
it.
Right.
Yeah.
well, for me, I'm just trying to figure out the biggest thing is what are these things? My background is in natural resources, wildlife management. I've worked as a park ranger, park manager, park naturalist all over the state, and I'm a hunter and a fisherman. I thought I knew, I think I know every native form of wildlife and fish in this state. And whenever I saw that one, I went from believing to knowing. When I saw that thing, and the ones I've seen since then, that what bothered me that night kept me awake for several nights is what the heck are these things? Where did they come from? And what are they? Because they're different. They're not like black bear or anything else like that around here. Uh, just not a normal wildlife. And so, what the heck are these things?
They're very self aware of their
Right.
surroundings and environment more than
Something
any
something
other
different.
animal that's out there.
Right. And the way that they're able to evade us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. But that's my quest is to try to figure out what these things are.
Larry, have we got any questions?
Well, there's just one more question about the techniques that they use. I don't know if y'all get any snow enough in Oklahoma to cast in snow, but whenever you take photographs of tracks, or do y'all paint the tracks, or just what kind of techniques do y'all use out in the field to show your evidence?
Right. I don't think we've ever we don't get that much snow. I don't think we've ever found any I've never found any tracks in the snow. Um, of course, we have lots of good mud around here. We have found lots of tracks in the mud where in the past we hadn't carried the stuff to cast the prints, but we're starting to experiment with that, and we really, uh, I guess, really since last winter, been surprised at the quality of the prints, the tracks that we found. And so now I'm ready to really get after some good casting. Um, so I think that's our next thing, is to really start casting some of these amazing prints that we found. But mostly it's been photographic evidence, using, I've posted the pictures with using the ruler and tape measure and that sort of thing, trying to get
Right.
a scale on these prints.
Okay.
Well,
That's
guys,
pretty much.
we're
Go ahead.
we're getting to almost an hour and a half
Dang.
into this. Can you believe it?
Well, we
But
just have a lot of fun talking about it.
yeah, us
Yeah.
too.
Definitely.
Well,
It's fun talking to you guys online, but we don't get to, except once, got to meet each other. Where did we go? That bookstore lecture, and then Denny's.
yeah,
Yeah, a couple of years ago, right?
yeah, and then let's see, Evans, you were at the Oklahoma Bigfoot Symposium this year, wasn't you?
Right. Yep, that's the first one I've ever been
Yep.
to. But I heard about it, and I wanted to get up there and meet those good folks up there. And like I said, try to expand the network and get to know some folks, and open up lines of communication.
Kurt, do you have any remaining thoughts that you would like to share with us before we go off the air?
Well, I just I could only guide those who are participating on through Facebook and on YouTube and otherwise to uh, watch what they're looking at. I definitely would tell them to pay attention to what you guys are researching. Your research tactics are I find them at times bizarre, uh, especially when you guys put what is that y'all do? You sleep out
Hammock.
Hammock?
between trees in a
Yep.
hammock, and anything could come up and just take your head off. But I think that's fun. I don't. I guess I can come down there and do it all with you sometime if you invite me.
Well,
But you guys have a lot of very good. Uh, not only your environment, you've got a lot of good facts that people should pay attention to if they're very interested in this. And really, sure appreciate you having us on. I appreciate you having me on for sure.
yes, sir. Well, our strategy is a whole lot like y'all's. Is we want them to come to us. And so that's one reason why we hammock camp, and that's one reason why when it gets dark, I pour a little bacon grease around Larry's hammock, and then I can sit back with the FLIR and, maybe we'll catch something.
I'm always looking for the bacon, though. All I find is the grease.
You smell it all night, don't you, Larry?
That's right.
Evans, do you have any closing comments?
Well, we just sure appreciate the invitation. We're humbled by it, and just appreciate you guys being interested in what we're doing over here in the middle part of Oklahoma. It's probably not as exciting as what's going on in the eastern part, but we're just trying to cover our area and expand our network, and so we really appreciate the opportunity to come on shows like this.
Well, we want to tell everybody about our Facebook page. And in the Facebook page, under the file section, we have a lot of protocols in there, a lot of things such as animal vocalization libraries and things of that nature, how to read topo maps. There's a lot of good information. I remember what Kurt was saying about when he first saw that one across the river from him, and he talked about he just saw a little small section of him, and that was away when I was a man that taught me how to really deer hunt back in the 80s. Taught me, said, you're not looking for the full picture of a deer in front of you. You are looking for a 1 by 1 square inch, and that's what you're looking for. And so we just have a lot of good things on our Sawdust Beast page that can help y'all, especially with audio. And we had a question asked about making cast. Andrew Meisinger is he used to be an archaeologist, and he's got some great pointers and protocols for making cast. Larry, do you got any closing comments?
Man, I just thank the guys for coming on. It was a great show. And believe it or not, Mark, my Beast of the Woods YouTube page has 50 subscribers.
Wow.
Ain't that a milestone?
Wow.
All right. Excellent.
Yes.
The Beast of the Woods is really, I enjoy the videos because it's kind of like behind the scenes. And the Sawdust Beast YouTube channel is more about the evidence we find and the protocols, but going behind the scenes, the outtakes, it's great stuff. And there's things that you can learn from that. And there's a lot of good information that Larry puts out.
Hey, well, Mark,
Uh-huh.
I hate to mention it, but the final conflict, people will go, well, they're armchair researchers, or they don't. Well, we're not. We get out. If we could spend a whole evening talking about tick, flea bites, we could talk about spiders, snakes. We could talk about quicksand, and we could also talk about poison ivy and poison oak, which is incredibly thick, where Evans and I research. So, if they want to talk about that kind of stuff sometime, that's fine too. It's not fun all the time. It's and a lot of times you won't get any results. You can't even stir up an armadillo. But really, that there's some nights, and you're sitting there going, I don't think I can take any more mosquito bites, and I think I've got 20 ticks on me, and all of a sudden you'll hear a ooh, ooh, or something, and it don't sound like the native critters, and you're going, all right, that might have been worth it that night.
That keeps us going.
Yeah.
That keeps us going.
Evans, tell us real quick how people can contact y'all's group to become part of it.
Okay, just go on Facebook and search North Canadian River Project and apply for membership in the group, and we'll take a look at it and be glad to have them if they're interested. They don't have to be just in this central Oklahoma area. Anybody that's interested in what's going on or keeping tabs on what's going on the river there. So I was going to ask if we have some good evidence, photographs of prints, that sort of thing. Should we submit them on the Beast page or?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so all right. Well, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Well, we really appreciate y'all guys coming on. And I was talking to Eric Tipton today, and we have a documentary coming out that Cam Buckner filmed us going out in the Appalachians, and Eric did a trailer for this documentary, and so we wanted to I wanted to play the trailer because I just think it's awesome what Eric did, and we can't ever thank Eric and Kane, and we've always got to mention Debbie and Shelley. I mean, this would be impossible to pull this off without their help. So we hope to see everybody back next week. And so we're going to end with playing the trailer that Eric put together for our documentary. Good night, everyone.
This has been a Sawdust production.